Oh, nice. Thanks for subscribing. Hello, hello. One sec, though. This isn't the correct YouTube. So this is actually the corrected YouTube account. This is just the one I'm streaming on right now because YouTube is being silly. So that is the correct author account. Once we reach 50 subscribers on there, I'll be exclusively streaming on there for all book and author related things. This one's just kind of a dinking around YouTube that I'm using for the moment. I'm coming for that #1 spot. Coming for that #1 spot. I'm 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 coming for that #1 spot. Alright, so we're almost done with the second book. I have like 4 more chapters to write. If I can finish writing this chapter today, then that'll be 3 more chapters. Technically 2 chapters and an epilogue. And the epilogue is going to be kind of short, but it's sort of like the characters themselves don't get any closure for how things go in the book, but you as the audience will get to have the closure of like how things have worked out between the 2 girls that are friends in the beginning of the book. And then right now is a chapter about the main character is working, she's working a gig where there is a performer that's in an abusive relationship with her manager, and that's going to kind of shake free a bunch of memories that she has of her her friend that she hasn't spoken to in a while, because she's in an abusive relationship that she wouldn't leave, and so that's caused like a bunch of distance between the two of them, and so it'll show kind of the parallelisms between like people that stay in abusive relationships for one reason or another. And then that'll be her kind of like working through how she feels about all that and kind of unpacking that for herself and like why women stay kind of in that particular chapter. Then I have The Wedding. I think The Wedding is the next thing to write. And let's see here. Yeah, so the abuse chapter, The Wedding, the big first of the year event that everybody goes to, which is just crazy. And then the epilogue. So honestly, we're in the home stretch, kind of. I think I wrote the harder chapter, which was them finding a little kitty cat, which was pretty fun. And then if I can get this all figured out, then I'll format it, and then the moment that it's done formatting, I'm just going to click publish. But I'm also going to have ARC reads available, so you guys won't have to pay a dime to read this book. It'll be totally free, as long as you guys leave me a review. It doesn't even have to be a good review, just a review in general. If you hated it, write that review. I don't care. As long as you guys get to read a book for free, that's all I care about. And then July is just going to be book club. So if you like romantasy books or fantasy or mystery or whatever, go ahead and check out the book club. It's currently being hosted on Goodreads, so go ahead and join that, totally free. And we're going to be reading a couple more books right now. Right now, I'm testing out a historical fiction kind of fantasy. I think I don't know if it counts as fantasy. I think it's historical fiction. But it's basically where this girl from the pleasure houses entrusts a legendary swordsman to help her find her family. It's giving so far kind of Samurai Champloo vibes, if you guys are familiar with that. And if it turns out to be pretty good, I'll suggest it to the book club, but I'm still reading the first book about a third of the way in. So far I'm enjoying it. And that's going to be from what is the author's name on that, so you guys can just circumvent me? It is from J.F. Lee. It's called Sword of Sorrow, Blade of Joy, and I really enjoy it so far. He's got like 4 or 5 books on that, so I'm trying to get into the ARC read on the 5th book of that. I think it'll be dope. It has something about the Order of the White Crane or whatever, which I think will be really cool. But yeah, so July is just going to be gaming and kind of book club stuff just to like vibe out. And then in August, the moment July finishes, I'm going to start writing Moon and Marble, which is a billionaire romance series with an Asian male lead. Hello. This is sort of just a writing live chat where I'm finishing up the last 4 chapters of my book about musicians and drugs and goth baddies. And that should be finished and ready to publish by the end of this month. I'm a little bit behind. I was trying to drop it by Father's Day, but I fucked up my shoulder for like 2 weeks, so I kind of missed that deadline. But it should be finished by the end of this month. I mean, I got kind of like a 2-week break, essentially, and so the chapters have really been flowing, so that's been good. So this will drop probably by end of June. So keep a lookout on that. I think I have links on my YouTube and my Twitch for ARC raids, and I'll update those the moment that this one is ready. And then I will, once again, like I said, just be vibing in July with book club and video games and just kind of hanging out. Well, I mean, you don't have to stay. You're welcome to do anything. Nobody's holding you hostage. But if you like romantasy, if you like contemporary fiction, if you're into billionaire romances, highly recommend the next book that's coming out. It has found family. It has kind kind of like a grumpy main character. And I think the characters ended up being really lived in. I'm still working on some analysis for the Asian mom. She needs a little bit more rounding to finish that out. And then that one should pretty much be like, I mean, it's halfway written essentially. I just have to put it in paper. And I've had a couple of the ARC readers suggest that I make a tandem book called Sun and Steel, which is just all from the male main character's perspective, because his is kind of going to be like sort of a grungier tale, because he has a lot of stressors and like pressures put on him to be like the legacy character. So that's going to be probably a book 2 on that, or a tandem read. And then they also suggested that I make a 3rd book for their sister, and sort of her romance and stuff like that. And I think the working title for that one is Stars and Strings, kind of an allure. And that one's kind of like sort of an homage to her, like wanting the 2 main characters to get together like puppets on a string, but also she plays a stringed instrument. So I'm going to try and weave that in there with like sort of more of a musical background on that. But I have to have, I think I'm going to have one of my buddies that's in like the Philharmonic or something like that tell me a little bit more of the backstory of that kind of stuff, so I can get that to be more of an immersive story as well if I'm going to go that route. That one's probably going to come out much later though. But Moon and Marble for sure, I'm going to try and drop that by December. So I'm going to hopefully get that one out by December. So then that'll be Jesus. That'll be like 3 books in under a year, which is crazy. And then of course there's book 2 of the Bite series, which is a vampire romantasy book. And it has a grumpy farm girl and a sunshine vampire character going on a journey to this land that he's supposed to be ruling, but he's not. And it's got court intrigue, and so far I've gotten a lot of feedback that is kind of similar to From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout, which I haven't read yet, but that is on the list for the book talk book club for July. So hopefully we'll get that read in July, and I'll see just how similar it is. But I didn't want to read it just in case there were spoilers. So yeah, that's kind of what we're working on. So far this chapter is about like the parallels of abuse and why people sort of stay in relationships that they know they probably oughtn't, and like kind of the safety that that provides and stuff. And hopefully I can do this chapter justice and sort of be finished with it, because it's kind of a lengthy chapter. I think this one's the longest of the final 4 chapters, which once again, I don't know if the epilogue technically counts as a chapter. It's not going to be too terribly long, maybe a page or 2. Just sort of harkening back from like, do you guys remember like the music video for Skater Boy from Avril Lavigne? I want to say it's in like 2009 or something like that. Don't quote me on the year. But basically, it's going to be like the main character and the group is like, they're on stage and they're being interviewed, and it's sort of a big moment for them, and it's kind of like a culmination of like everything sort of going right for that one character. And then the epilogue begins, and the screen just kind of goes to static, and then you just see the reflection of a life that is sort of unlived, a life that's been sort of like co-opted by another person, and then sort of the cost of settling and stuff like that in the book. And I think it'll kind of like tie it back into sort of like the Great Gatsby vibes, where like this whole time he's been pursuing Daisy, and he's been pursuing like what might have been between the 2 of them. And ultimately, and I don't know if it's spoilers for a classical novel for you guys, but if you haven't read The Great Gatsby, I recommend it. Pretty good. Definitely holds more significance if you're an adult than if you're a middle schooler that was forced to read that book. But he's been chasing after like this ghost of what could have been with their relationship. And in the end, she kind of chooses safety and chooses the mediocrity of her life with Tom. And if I remember right, Tom sort of leads to Gatsby's demise, because if like essentially no one that ought to be punished in that book is punished. And this is sort of a role reversal of that, where like the people that have built themselves up and like created a legacy for themselves, they actually have a better life. Whereas in The Great Gatsby, sort of the villain wins in that book a little bit. Like, this man has made his entire life about seeking the affections of this kind of vain and vapid woman, and it ultimately kind of bites him in the ass. Whereas in this book, I'm sort of more exploring the relationships between these two women and how, like, they were much stronger together as apart, but, like, to a sense, the one character realizes that she wasn't really in love with the other character like she thought she was. It was more of a limerence, and then how that sort of plays out after, like, the spiraling of their friendship eroding and sort of picking up the pieces of that and sort of trying to become better. And I mean, so far this book has gone crazy fast. I think I started writing it in February, and I've been kind of phoning it in since then. It really, in all sense of it, it should have been finished by now. But I don't know, it just got away from me. So now I'm in the last 4 chapters of it. I'll finish that out, and then that'll be 2 books that are done. And then I really think Moon and Marble is going to go much faster because the character dynamics were the things that I finished last in this book and the book before. And the character dynamics are all finished. So I kind of already know, like, how the characters would purport themselves in the world. And it's another more modern romance. So there's not nearly as much world building that need be done. I have a couple more plots that I need to iron out in as far as, like, the architect and the building construction sort of spheres, but I mean, that's ultimately within my power to do relatively quickly. So yeah, that's what we've been up to. I mean, there's like 9 more books. There's like 9 more books I'm working on. This is going to be kind of a lengthy process to finish all of them. Ultimately, my goal is 22 books because I'm trying to make an Easter egg cover for all of these books in, like, the major arcana of, like, the tarot cards. So this book would probably be, I want to say the Fool, maybe. Is that what I ended up writing it out as? Let's see. Character analysis. Here it is. Okay, so far... Oh, this one would have been the High Priestess. So this one, its tarot equivalent would be the High Priestess. The 3rd book of the Bite series is the Emperor. The Billionaire Romance, Moon and Marble, would be the Lovers. And Bite, the original novel that I have for pre-order on Amazon, that one is The Hanged Man. Book 2, Thirst, is going to be The Moon. And I think I already have one for The Chariot. The Chariot's going to be like a spin-off, I think, of Eric's boss and his sort of elements. I also think that one, he was able to be under The Devil or Death. So that one's kind of going to be a toss-up on that one, which one he gets to cover. Maybe I'll do, like, a short graphic novel of him doing assassin shit. I think that could be kind of fun. Yeah, and I think maybe this... What would the Sun be? But anyway, so the goal is 22 books. So far we've got, like, 9 of them in the works. So that's going to be quite a bit. I also have a Stolen Bride series that I'm going to try and do that's sort of got, like, solo leveling vibes. In so much as they have, like, portals to other worlds and stuff. And the one character, she gets stuck in this other world and, like, essentially closed off. But it turns out that she's made a cursed blade. And that one I could probably flesh out a little bit more. But that one's probably... Oh, there's so many of them. I really wish I had, like, a giant whiteboard that I could just, like, put all of this shit on instead of have it in my brain. I was working on doing kind of like a digital sort of like kind of like a crime board sort of, just to get it like out of my head and put it into like a visual that I could like maybe share with my editors. But I mean, it's just so much easier to have a great big whiteboard. I think that's the way to go with it. I need to make like a wall of my house into a whiteboard so that I can like shuffle these things around and have like little magnets of the characters or something. I think that that'll eventually be like the backdrop, and then you guys will get to like zoom in and see little Easter eggs of what I'm up to. I think that'll be the way to go with it. Probably that's what I'll do with it. Okay, so we've had that up. I'll pop this up. This is the book I'm currently working on. This is Where the Feedback Ends. And that one's going to go on pre-order here pretty soon. But I recommend just doing the ARC read for it, because then you've got no money invested in it. You can read it, and if you like it, great. If you don't like it, leave a review anyway. I really don't care if the reviews are good or bad. Just feedback in general is what I'm looking for, and that's worth it for a book, in my opinion. Just because, like, I mean, I'm going to be writing so many of these books eventually. Like, they're not all going to be bangers, but so far this one's pretty fun. I highly recommend chapters 7 and 8. So far those are my favorite. Until I get done formatting the last couple of chapters, because I think, where is it at? I think chapter 22 is going to also be probably one of my favorites in here. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, there's like a pretty strong midsection of this book that I really enjoyed writing. It was just really easy to just bang out, and there's some spicy scenes in here, but it's not nearly as spicy as book 1 of Bite. Book 1 of Bite is crazy spicy. I think there's like 3,000 words of smut in there, at least. And then book 2 of Bite is not going to be as spicy. It's mostly just going to be like kind of unsettling. One of the characters is kind of a masochist, so that's going to be kind of crazy to write. And then in book 3, it's sort of a redemption arc. So there's a lot of like re-education essentially happening, and then ultimately like how you would choose to live your life if you're no longer a nihilist, and then sort of thwarting like a demon of power is in there. I also have a demon book coming out that's about sort of a throuple, but the guy is possessed by a demon, and they're sort of both dating the girl, which is, I don't even know how I'm going to write that book, but it ended up in my short stories, so it just manifested itself in there, which is crazy. I don't know how I come up with half of this stuff. It's nuts. Like, it really is kind of just like being held hostage by the characters. I don't really want to write this stuff. I want to write like, I don't know, maybe like a children's book or something like that about like kitty cats going on an adventure or something. But like, here we are, like 2-3 romantasy books, and I have like sort of a whodunit in there too, but I'm not quite clever enough to write a whodunit yet, so that one's still on the back burner. It's kind of like sort of like a medieval, no, or like a Victorian era France whodunit, at like kind of a boarding school sort of situation. I'll have to finish that one out, but that one's, like I said, I don't even know where half of these things come from. It's just insanity just pouring out into these pages. There is a book of horror style short stories coming out that are like almost all tied together with elements of like plants and like various flora. So that one, probably going to drop that in one of these Octobers. Probably not this October. I'm pretty booked, but one of these Octobers, there'll be like a fun horror book. Maybe it'll be just like a little novella, depending on how many of them I have at the time. And then I'll drop that. That'll be like a fun little goodie for you guys. It's really fun. One of the stories is about a garden that eats its inhabitants. Like, people keep buying this estate and then going missing, and it essentially becomes abandoned. And then sort of how that progresses with like someone finding out that it's the garden doing all of that. Hopefully you guys, there's enough time between now and then. Hey you guys. Oh man, I'm like crazy tired. This week has been nuts. But that one was really fun. Let's read maybe a little segment of that for funsies. Or yeah, let's see which one comes up first. Where's my... I think that one's Living Soil. She gazed over the rusting wrought iron gates into the jungle that lay before her. Years of neglect had eroded the proud gate to her mistress's once lush English garden. It would no doubt take weeks of toil to make a dent in all the ruin. Nevertheless, she was determined. With the trowel in hand and pruning shears tucked into her utility belt, she began her laborious affair. The garden welcomed her loving hands, first clearing the decay of years past, then carefully reconstructing the beds, some crumbling at the corners from the harshness of the summer storms. She had her little victories, and bit by bit the garden changed under her hands. First chaos, then slowly the clearing canvas emerged beneath its rotted prison. The soil, being fallow for so long, craved the iron in her. A little sneak peek of that one. I wish it gave me the metadata of when I would write these. I probably should have started this with like... Which one's this after? Nope, that's the cat mystery. That one's a cat mystery. This one's about... I have a couple sci-fi ones too. I'm really just kind of genre hopping, which I think is pretty crazy. I should probably stick to one genre and just keep at it, but I don't know. This is just kind of like how it ends up sort of flowing out. Like, this is just how the stories are. I mean, I guess I could try to do like a Colleen Hoover, or just force the genre I actually want to write into a genre that's kind of popular. Like, as far as romance novels go, I think that she's not the best at writing romance novels, but damn if that woman can't write a mystery thriller. Like, I don't think I read Verity in one of the book clubs that I was in recently, and I don't know that I've ever read a book where I didn't like a single character, but she kept me glued to that book. I mean, I think I read the whole book in like one sitting. It was nuts. Maybe 2 settings at the most, but it was crazy. And I mean, I watched I think all of the pretty much all of the books that have been suggested in that one have been like mystery thrillers, which is nuts because it was supposed to originally be a romance, and now the one for July is Haunting Adeline, which I'm like, this is crazy, you guys. Like, you guys were picking some pretty unhinged books. Like, the last book we picked was Pretty Girls by, I think, Karen Slaughter. I mean, your grammar's not great, but, like, I mean, technically, I think that's correct. I think so. I think he does, doesn't he? It's been ages since I read Harry Potter. But, yeah, that's what... Man, I'm, like, mad tired. This is crazy. This week has been so nuts. Yes, that was a spoiler. Was it a spoiler? No, you're good. Are you using Chrome right now, or are you using, like, Firefox? Because I think Chrome has, like, a spell checker. I think it's like a native spell checker, like within the browser. Or are you just like freehanding it? Does anybody remember like T9 text, or am I dating myself right now? Oh yeah, yeah. Right. How are you typing? Do you have like a keyboard or are you using like... Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry guys. The one day I don't drink any caffeine. It's crazy. Oh, speaking of, I tried this new drink the other day. I'm not like crazy about the name of it, but it was tasty. I think it's called Bum, B-U-M. Drink. Which, once again, not something I would name a beverage, but pretty good. I tried, oh, I see, it's after the guy's name. Oh, unfortunate. Unfortunate. I think I would have gone with Raw instead. He's partnered with Raw Nutrition. I think if I had like a really like whack last name, I don't think I would try and incorporate it into branding personally. Yeah, I think, oof, man, that's tough. But the root beer one is so good. The root beer one is really good. The cola one's also pretty good. It looks like they also have like a cherry frost one, which would probably be like a snow cone. Ooh, they have a Dr. Pepper one as well. That one's pretty good. I'm trying like out new caffeine drinks because I tried an Alani the other day and I was like, I mean, that'll have you like gacked out. It was crazy. It has like 200 milligrams of caffeine, and clearly that's above my limit for caffeine because it was insane. I couldn't go to bed until like 10:30 in the morning. It was nuts. Usually I go to bed at about 6, and so I was up for like an extra. I mean, that depends. I mean, I probably wouldn't. In like a book or like human beings. You know what I mean? Because I guess you could have a little bit more leeway if it was like, really, you're gonna mushroom. I mean, chanterelle would be kind of a cute name. That's a mushroom, right? Chanterelles are fucking delicious. Did you guys see my one of the shorts I put out with? I'm like obsessed with chanterelles, but it's super hard to find them, and they make the best soup. They're like fantastic. Everybody's all into morel mushrooms, but I think they taste like too much like dirt, which has its place. You know, if you've got a little bit of geophagia going on, that would be cool. But and they're probably great with like like sweated and put into like a wild mushroom gravy maybe would be pretty good. But chanterelles are where it's at. Those are fantastic mushrooms. Eventually I'm going to do some Mitake frondosa. Yeah. So eventually I'm going to be making some Mitake frondosa or hen of the woods mushroom logs, and I'm just going to be eating like pretty much my weight in those mushrooms in perpetuity because I think that's the more commercialized version of a chanterelle. It's basically got the same flavor profile, but because it developed in Asia instead of North America, it's not an in-ground mushroom. It's a hardwood mushroom, I think. And so it's easier to cultivate. Yeah, it grows at the base of trees, particularly oak trees. Yeah, so that one, does it say maple? Yeah, oaks and maples. Nice. Oh, it's native to China, Europe, and North America. I do not. There is some mushroom guy in North America that kind of looks a little bit like a dwarf. Like a Tolkien dwarf. What is that guy's name? He has like this whole thing about fly amanitas. What is his name? Yeah, that guy. He's super old. Like, I think he's from like the 70s. Like, maybe he was born in the 50s. What is that guy's name? Oh, Joe Rogan mushroom guy. Paul Stamets. He is a renowned mycologist. Nice. Yeah, that guy. I think he's literally wearing a mushroom hat. I think it's made of, like, mushroom leather. That guy? That guy right there? Oh, yeah. Yeah, see, and that's the crazy part. I'm not really big on portobello mushrooms. Like, edible wild mushrooms. Or oyster mushrooms. I don't really fuck with anything that tastes like the sea. Puffball mushrooms would be pretty good. Morels. They are sought after for their rich, earthy flavor. Tastes like dirt. I don't understand why. I think it's so crazy how people are able to take something that objectively tastes like on the lower end of great and be like, this is an exquisite, like, super fancy food. Like how they like how they tricked everybody into thinking lobster is awesome. 90% of lobster is just terrible. And that's mostly because people don't know how to cook it, but it's probably also regional. Lobster is kind of one of those foods that's just sort of awful to cook. But it's a delicacy, right? And it's probably a delicacy because only like 2% of the population can cook it until it's edible. Whereas crab is delicious. Scallops are fantastic. What are a couple of more of those things? Oysters, super gross, but people are like, oh, oysters are delicious. Mussels are pretty good, actually. Mussels and clams, pretty good. But they're doing a new thing now where they're making lionfish into food. So it's this like super invasive aquarium fish basically that gets like just dropped off in coastal waters and they just like overpopulate. And they're making them into like fancy lionfish sashimi or whatever. Hello. I think sea urchin too. Sea urchin's probably gross, but it's like super like a big deal to eat. Unless it tastes like the passion fruit of the sea, I'm not really interested. It looks like it would taste like that, though. Like, if you were to crack open a sea urchin, it absolutely looks like it would taste like passion fruit, but I bet it tastes like nasty. Sandhill crane, though, we talked about that last live stream. Sandhill crane is like the filet mignon of the sky, and apparently that one's really good. So I think that as human beings, we just haven't, like, fully been honest with ourselves about what animals are actually the tastiest. Have you read The Witcher Kitchen? Ooh, bullets. I like to eat those too. Supposedly those are really good. Especially, I think they're like a mostly European mushroom, but supposedly that's really good. I would love to have like wild mushroom like gravy with like some steak and potatoes. I think that'd be delicious. Also, I want to try like a turkey and chanterelle soup. I think that would be really good. Just ultimately, like, if you can add more mushrooms into your diet, it's just better for you. Because mushrooms are actually closer to meat than they are to plants. So they give you different and more essential nutrients. But that also could be mushroom propaganda, and if we get enough mushrooms in our systems, they start to control us, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. I think mushrooms have kind of figured it out, you know? Like, they sort of know what's good for them, and, I mean, they've persisted for thousands of years, so maybe the mushrooms have some mushroom human cousin. Yeah, I think the mushrooms are just slowly figuring out how to trick us into being their food, pretty much. Like, I think mushrooms are like, you should eat this double cheeseburger. And I'm like, oh, thank you, mushroom. That would be good. And the mushrooms are just like, yes. Soon I will dine on you. That seems like exactly what, are they the myconoids? Is that what they are? The little mushroom people in Baldur's Gate? And I think they're D&D 5e, if I'm not mistaken. I think that would be their ultimate, like, somebody needs to run a D&D campaign where the myconoids are just trying to eat people because they're mushrooms. I mean, their whole goal is just to make more mushroom people, essentially. Oh, okay, so does anybody play The Last of Us? I think that's a pretty pivotal plot point of The Last of Us as well. Which, speaking of, sometime in July, I'm going to try and get some multiplayer games so that we can all rock out and play video games. But I gotta be honest, I'm kind of shit at first-person shooters, so if anybody has any suggestions of, like, multiplayer games they'd like to play in July, hit me up. Pretty much, like, the mushrooms will outlast us all, essentially. Like, what an evil creature, right? Like, doesn't that seem like the ultimate bad guy is something that's just like, I can wait, you know, eventually. Crazy. As you know, you can tell it's the end of the stream because we're just like immediately talking about food. We always end up talking about food at the end of the stream. Yes. Especially, I think there's a new, right. I think that there's a, oh, what was it? There's a new, like, circle of druid that's, like, a rot druid or something like that. Is it the spore druids, rot druids, something like that? It's basically, like, the circle of, it's basically like a mushroom druid, essentially. I'd love to play one of those in my next campaign. I think that would be so fun. Like, essentially, like, a mushroom necromancer, kind of. I wonder if, like, you could have the, I wonder if, like, as a warlock, or I think it's a warlock that it would be, if you could make a pact with the myconoids to, like, have their power or whatever. Not, like, super advanced in, like, the D&D sphere, but I think that that could also be pretty cool. But yeah, I think it would be super cool to be able to eat, like, essentially seasonal wild mushrooms. Have you guys, do you guys fuck with Clarkson's Farm at all? Because he did, like, a whole thing on mushrooms that I think you'd be super into. He essentially converted this, like, old bomb shelter into, I think, like, an oyster mushroom cultivator, which was pretty neat. Which, like I said, I'm not a big fan of oyster mushrooms, but I do think it's pretty cool how they can just, like, propagate like that. I think he ended up with, like, way too many mushrooms. He ended up with, like, an insane amount of mushrooms. But yeah, if you guys ever want to talk about video games or mushrooms, food, really anything in general, go ahead and hit me up on Discord. I'll send you guys the link. Oh, so this book is a contemporary fiction. I already wrote a romantasy book with vampires in it. But this book is about musicians and drugs and goth baddies. And this one should come out, this is called Where the Feedback Ends. It should come out by the end of this month, ideally, if everything goes to plan. Yeah, see, here's a fun fact about me. I can't play games that involve jumping. I'm absolute ass at it. Absolutely terrible at it. Anything, like, I played Alice the Madness Returns, and there was, like, essentially a couple... How much do you spend on editing? I don't spend any money on editing at all. I edited all of my own books, which I've got to say is kind of a nightmare. I don't think editors really do what they used to do anymore. As far as I know, editors just look for, like, continuity and plot holes, which is, like, I already know how to do that. So, I don't really have a lot of faith in modern editors, but, like, maybe that could change. But let's see, I finished the first book. I started, like, October 14th, and I finished, like, second week of December. And then I, like, fucked off all the rest of December and January to play League of Legends like a gremlin. And I didn't even get out of Iron, which is, like, the saddest part. I think I ended up Iron 4 or something like that. Disgraceful. I really deserve to be in Silver, but their matchmaking system is absolute trash. I digress. So then from basically February, I think it took me like 2 weeks to format it in February. and then I uploaded it. I did some ARC reads. I did a couple more edits on it, and then I was pretty much finished with that in March. And then oh yeah, by the way, I'm also, interesting. I'm also sponsored by Factor, so if you don't have time to make any of these tasty foods or whatever, I highly recommend getting a meal service to send food to you. They had a couple really good chicken recipes and stuff that I wanted to try out. They had like some pretty tasty looking ragu on there as well. Big fan of chicken pasta dishes. And then eventually maybe we'll do like a cooking show. We'll do like little cooking streams in the future because I love food and I love to garden. And I try to make those like food scenes in my book pretty expansive. So maybe we'll do like a cook the book kind of situation. But if you're not a super culinary expert, highly recommend checking out Factor. Use my link to get 50% off and free shipping on your first order. And I think there's a coupon code for that as well. Let me find that for you guys. Nope, not Streamlabs. But basically, when I'm doing my editing for the book, I have a reader app that reads the whole book to me. So then I do my first pass through for like if the grammar isn't hitting, then I'll go back through and fix that, and then I read it. I put it through an AI filter so that it has like a human voice reading it to me instead of a robot, and then I think, oh, is the cadence of this off? Is the feeling in this? And then I send it to human beings, and then they read it, and then they tell me the things that aren't how it ought to be. Here's the coupon code. Oop. And then I send that to a couple human beings, and they tell me if it is how it ought to be or not. How long does the entire process take? Well, for the first book, like I said, it started on October 14th. Take out about a month and a half between then and I guess technically right now. I'm still waiting for somebody to cross-check my chapters for me because I don't really fundamentally understand how chapters work because I just read books sort of all in one go. So I'm not really sure how the pacing by chapter should go. I just know how I want the book to go, and so I write it like that. The first pass of this book, I wrote it in location-based sections. So I was like, oh, they're in this country for the first one. They're in this city for this chapter. They're on the road. They're in the new country. They're on the road. They're in a castle. They're this and that. And I just thought that that was too kind of like disjointed for breaking the book up. I'm probably wrong because like half of the books I read have like 13 different parts in it. So I think I'm going to go back and put those original parts back into it and separate the chapters like that. And then I have one more printing for the paperback. The paperback's really the biggest pain in the ass. If you're just going to do an ebook, this whole process goes way faster. Because when you're doing the paperback, you have to take into account how large the text is. And you have to make sure that the guttering is proper. You have to put page numbers in it. And all of that takes a level of precision that I didn't have at the time. So I did first proofing, and then there were a bunch of problems with that. I actually like fucked up my author photo in that one, and it like offset like 13 of my chapters, so they were like halfway down the page and stuff. So you got to take that into account. But like I said, if it was just an ebook, like I'd already be done. Like the ebook is so done that I should just release it. But I want the ebook and the paperback to be congruent and the same. So if I make changes to the paperback, I don't want the ebook to not have those same changes. So I'm waiting to essentially go page for page, which is probably unnecessary, but I'm going page for page to make sure that everything is exactly the same, and then I'll publish it. It's probably not going to take all the way till September. I'll probably finish that out. I don't know, probably July, because I told the one editor that she needs to finish up reading the book. She's almost done with it, but I told her to finish up the book and give me her final thoughts, because I almost have another one ready for her, and she's like, okay, cool. But she was having some processing issues with getting the book onto her Kindle with the way that I sent it to her, so I have to troubleshoot that probably next Monday for her. Because she's just been reading the paperback version of it, but she's like, sometimes I don't take the paperback with me, so I need the ebook, and I'm like, no problem. Ideally, I would like to, in the future, when the book is like fully out for release, I want to make it like a bundle so you can get the paperback and the ebook. Because I like to just have both when I have books for the same reason, because I'm always on my phone and traveling and stuff, and sometimes I don't bring the book. For example, when I was reading The Witcher, I read that all on paperback, but then for like the last, I think, 2 or 3 books, I was constantly up at work, and so I like couldn't have a physical book in my hand because people hate it when you're reading books at your job. Apparently, I don't really get what that's about. So I would just read the ebook version of it, because then they just think I'm looking at emails or whatever, and they were fine with that, which is crazy. So I would like to bundle those. And then I lost one of the paperback copies I had of The Witcher. I lost Season of Storms, which is the kind of just like Tales of the Witcher or whatever, where it's like, I think that's the one that also has Sirens of the Deep or whatever that adaptation they put out. And I was going to loan that to one of my buddies, but I have no idea where that book ended up. So like the physical, I've lost at least 6 physical copies of a book before in my life, so I think it's good to have both if you can. But yeah. So like I said, is it Hugo? Hugo? If it's my answers differ if it's an ebook or a paperback. The ebook doesn't take that long at all. You could probably bang out an ebook in like maybe 3 months or so. But then like you give yourself a little treat. Like, don't just be banging out book after book. That's nuts. You should give yourself like at least a month as like a little treat and a little reward for completing it. And if you want to like write down plot elements for like your next book while you're doing that, that's fine. But don't set the expectation that you should be writing another book, because they'll come to you. Like, the books will just attack you with what they want to be written. And it's important to have like scheduled times of rest. You can ignore those schedules of times of rest, but it's important to schedule them in just in case, because the worst thing you can do is be trying to like force yourself to write when you don't have it in you, and then you're just like burning yourself out, which not very recommended. So I think we're in the last like 5 hours of the stream. I know it doesn't seem like this stream is that long, but I had to start and stop because moderating this is one of my nightmares. The multi-streaming part of this is pretty cool, but it's a real bitch to moderate, if I'm being honest. Oh, cute. Kitty cats. And I also have to finish out, I've got a couple of YouTube videos I have to post after this. So, one more time, if you guys are following me on YouTube, this is just my dinking around YouTube. This is not actually the main YouTube for author stuff. This is just what I'm using to live stream right now, because YouTube's real particular about their rules and stuff. So once I get 50 followers on the author account, we'll be just streaming exclusively from the author account. So if you want to just in the meantime follow both of those, and then just unfollow the one that you're not watching after we get to 50 followers, it won't hurt my feelings at all. But that is, if you don't want any interruption between the live streams, I highly recommend following both just in the meantime. And like I said, you can unfollow later once we hit that goal, if you are so inclined. I also recommend you guys, in the last like 5 minutes here, go ahead and check out the Discord. Let me make that link for you guys. Here is the Discord link. Go ahead and hop on there. I'm working on making the Discord a bit more interactive. I am not very tech savvy though, so if any of you guys are like Discord experts, hit me up. I am looking for sort of any advice on Discord. I think it's pretty well set up for right now, but I'm working on adding some elements to a couple of the chat bots for like interaction while I'm sleeping, because I'm nocturnal. But I have questions for you guys, but I don't always have questions for you guys when I'm thinking about it. I need to just make like sort of a list of things for it to ask you guys. And then we can get to know each other a little bit better, and I can answer any of you guys' questions about books or writing. If you're trying to write a novel right now, I have currently a 30 tips in 30 days. There should be links to that in both of my bios, but it's a free email course that gives you 30 real tips that I use to write both of my novels in under a year. I don't have any marketing tips on how to market the books because I don't really know how to do that quite yet, but the moment that I have that, I will create another email thing and just sort of pass that on to you guys as well, because the more people writing books is a good thing, because I also want to read more books, and more authors means more books to read. So if you're not planning on being an author and you like to read some books for free. And if you're an author and you're wanting to write books, I want to read them, so get to writing them. And yeah, I mean, I think we pretty much covered everything on this one. I am going to sign out for the evening and probably make more of that tasty caprese. I think I have more basil. I've been rooting like 100 basil plants because I thought that my basil wasn't sprouting, and so I just like poured like a whole seed packet into this planter, and now I have like 10,000 basil plants. And if I trim the basil plants while I'm making caprese and stuff, I can root even more basil plants, and I can create essentially a basil plant army, so that all summer long I can be eating like at least a quarter of my weight in basil, which I think is probably good for you. So think about your favorite recipe tips and your favorite books to read. I am currently taking book recommendations and also recipe recommendations. I'll probably have to make a channel for that specifically. But I'll see you guys